speaking about mental health, how that affects our artistic practice or our artwork or just our artness. How mental health affects our artness. Um, yeah.
And that for both of us includes our writing and you'll have to cut that out.
Well, no. Whatever goes into our just like our art practice in general, I think that's the best way to put it. Because not just our output. That leads me to think to the thing I was going to say was just that when you kind of brought up the subject, I was like, hell yeah, that's a great idea. Especially because both of us like this week have had a lot of ups and downs and like aren't feeling super great even today. And it was like, that's a great idea. And a part of me was like, well, that's too obvious. Like a part of me was just like, that's a little too obvious because like of course it affects our mental health. But then I was thinking about how like, yeah, well, how does it exactly affect things? So I think if we talk about it like, how does it affect our artistic practice? Well, our artistic practice includes so many things other than making visual art or writing, but it includes a lot of other things that our mental health definitely affects, and then that in turn affects our production, our frequency and quality and everything else. So that would be great to talk about today.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Okay. I can start.
I'm making you start everything today.
That's fine. Where do I start? I think that, like I said, starting with the obvious stuff, I mean, especially for me, a lot of my non-objective and abstract work is very dependent on my mood. So sometimes I'm just like, I'm going to go and paint something today, and I don't know what it is. And then I come here and I usually feel a mood which dictates the music I listen to. And the music I listen to can dictate the piece I'm working on. That's how it is a lot of the time for abstracts. Probably, I don't know, 75% of them are probably just like, I need to paint. I don't know what I'm painting yet. Okay, this is the music, this is the soundtrack. Now I go from there, these are my colors, these are whatever. So I mean, if my mental health is poor and I'm in a state where I can work and I'm going to do something abstract, then it definitely affects how I do it. It affects, it affects my mood. My mental health will affect my mood, but also just like, I find myself having much less patience if I am anxious or sad even. Like, I just find that if I'm having, I don't know, negative mental health issues, or if I'm just not doing great, first of all, it's harder for me to work sometimes. I found with anger, it's easy, but I don't feel anger as strongly as I did even a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, sometimes, because like when it comes to art, like if I'm really, really angry, I can work and it's energetic and it's like I know how to work with my anger very well for art.
No.
But I don't know how to work with sadness. I don't know how to work with anxiety that much. So that definitely affects like if I even feel like doing anything with output. If I even feel like I said, I want to open it up to using the term artistic practice because there's so many things that means. But when it comes to directly making visual art, it's definitely harder for me if I feel sad or if I feel anxious. And if I feel angry, it's a completely different.
What about if you feel happy?
I don't know what that is.
So you just have your like your stages, or like your anger, your
I feel like when
and depressed.
When I feel happy, like I don't want to say that's my like even keel, but I mean like on an average day I'm just slightly happy, I guess. Like I'm just like, oh, I want to do some painting, want to do this, and want to do that, and like, so I guess my default is happy, not like as happy or bubbly or whatever as a lot of people, but I mean,
those are weirdos anyway.
Absolutely,
yeah,
can't trust them.
No.
I don't. Yeah, when I'm, I guess to me that's my default. So when I talk about like negative mental health or anything else, like I guess I'm thinking of times that are not like that. Because when I'm happy is when I'm most productive in any regard, and I think most people can relate to that. So that translates to my artistic practice too. But I mean, I guess that's a good point. When I'm happy, I want to produce more. But there's times where I'm sad and I want to read more. I want to write more as part of my artistic practice instead of having visual art that I'm producing. So that is a difference, because I definitely, if I'm anxious and or sad, then I will write more. and I'll definitely read more, which translates to more writing and more thoughts and maybe ideas for creating visual art later. And sometimes I can't manifest them because I'm not in the same place I was when I was reading about that idea or whatever. But
when I'm anxious, I just almost can't really do anything of any consequence. So I don't think I write very well. I don't read. I'll read, but I won't take it in.
yeah,
But, and especially not if it's anything that's more academic. And then writing, or painting, I feel like I can do when I'm anxious is probably out of the three, the one that I can do. But yeah, when I'm probably sad or whatever, I find writing the easiest for me. But yeah, I don't know. As far as different processes go.
yeah, and I think, I don't know. I just had the thought of like the writing. It's way more self-reflective than I think visual art can be sometimes. Because I feel like when I'm creating visual art, I'm like putting something out, and like even though the act of writing the words is like putting it on a page, it's I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's like there's something inside of me that's intangible, and my body, like my hand, is just a filter for those thoughts, and then it's there on the page. But it's just like I'm just reading what I was thinking and feeling, and then having it there. It does a lot for me to be like, oh, I didn't even realize this is kind of what was going on.
Yeah.
But to me, it's different than, like I said, with visual art. It's not that it's not self-reflective, but it's very just different. If I'm creating visual art, I'm just feeling, and I'm just I don't know, because the abstract pieces, I'm just processing how I feel through this thing, but it doesn't feel like a mirror. Like so when I was talking about
writing to me feels like a mirror.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, because I feel like, oh, I put this thing on the canvas and now it's not with me anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's just there. And even if I were to look at the piece again, I'm looking at it through more of more of a critical eye than I am thinking about, oh, I really felt that way when I made that, and like that brings me back. Like sometimes there's a little bit of that, but with writing, it's like really, like I was rereading the thing that I wrote a couple nights ago, and it brought me down, and I was like, ugh. I was like, I just need to leave it alone, but it's just so different.
Yeah. When I was thinking about this, I was realizing that the medications that I'm on, they keep me from not being too high. And I was like missing that and wondering how it would affect my art painting, especially if I had those great highs that I used to get. So I was just thinking about that the other day, and I was like, damn, I really wish that, I sort of had those great highs.
Yeah.
The lows are great for writing. Those are fruitful. But but then it's, the other thing that got me thinking about this is there's sort of the idea of the artist as a madman, right? So there's like Vincent van Gogh and all of that. So there's this whole thing about the artist needs to be tortured and needs to be all these other things in order to be able to create well. And so I don't think that's the case. I do think it is in my writing, though. I do think my writing is much more interesting when I'm having a tough time of how things are. If I'm really happy and I'm like, gee, I'll just capture this little moment.
Yeah.
That's like not going to happen.
No.
It's so I don't know, pedestrian, or not even, I can't even think of the right word I'm looking for. It's so terrible. It's really cheesy writing. But I think that something that is the more visual then isn't affected.
Yeah.
So, but
it's really hard for me too with the writing, just while we're still on that.
Yeah.
That like, it's always been really difficult for me to write about anything positive and happy. Like, the times that I did, though, it was like cheesy, cringy, really corny. If it was like something really romantic, like it was like, oh, I'm a teenager in love. Let's write some poetry. But it was still few and far between in like the ratio of like dark stuff that was coming out. Like, yeah, and especially in the past however many years, because the majority of the writing that I was doing was for bands and songs. That was not really something I addressed. So Yeah, I definitely identify with that. I relate to that. It's really hard for me to write happy. I can express
Maybe that's
happy.
why there's not very many love songs. Well, no, I guess there's lots of love songs, but they're always
Yeah.
sad,
Well,
right?
I don't know. Maybe.
Good love songs are sad.
Well, for
Do you think of a good love song that's happy?
You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates.
I know. I said, have you heard any good music? Any good songs?
Oh, it's Hall & Oates. Come on.
No, but but I don't know. I haven't maybe been able to use art as therapy, like if art therapy. I don't know if I have or not. I know that whenever I'm feeling really anxious or whatever, I want to get to the studio. It's like my first thought is I want to get here and I want to paint and I want to do, well, it's always paint. So I think definitely the visual arts is what helps me with my anxiousness. Now that I'm saying it, I think so, because it's the first thing I want to turn to.
Yeah.
And it's something that, well, with the writing, I usually don't think about it as much like you were talking about too. It's something that you just you write all these words and then you read them, you're like, oh, either those are great or interesting or sound nice or enlightening or, but with painting, feels like there's more freedom.
I didn't think of it that way. I don't know. Like I said, if I'm really anxious or if I'm in a spiral or whatever, writing comes really naturally and it just flows out. And sometimes it's like a convoluted mess that doesn't make much sense. And then I'm like, oh, that sucked. Like I was in that place. That's not fun. But I don't know. With I had a thought and then of course it just left. But I was gonna say with anxiety for me, like I said, sometimes it's hard to do anything visual, which is weird. Now I remember the thought because like what I need when I'm anxious is to forget about whatever it is I'm thinking. So yeah. I make the distinction between thinking and feeling. I can feel, it's fine. Like if I'm just feeling things in a way, it's fine. It's the thinking, because feeling is present and thinking is future for me. Or thinking is past or future. Either way, it's not present for me as much. Whereas feeling in and of itself is just a presentness, and that's what I need. So it's like biking is like, you seem confused.
No.
Okay.
No.
I thought you gave a face. You're like, I don't understand what you mean. That's why like the biking thing is so much like I am in the present. Mm-hmm. And making visual art usually means I am in the present. However, for some reason, like if I'm too anxious, I can't even get started. Mm-hmm. Like I said, if it's anger, fine, because it's not as an ambiguous feeling like anxiety is for me. Because sometimes if I feel doom, what I like call feeling doom, and I feel like earlier you were saying, like, I feel like I can catch my breath. Mm-hmm. And I was feeling that for the first, hour or so we were here today, and then I got busy and I felt better because I wasn't thinking, because I felt like I couldn't catch my breath because I'm thinking of all these things that may or may not happen, and it's like all these outcomes, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. It's just that thing of like, I don't know, or I'm in limbo, I don't have the answers, and I want them and I can't have them, and just that whole spiral. Mm-hmm. So usually getting engaged in something where I'm not thinking is exactly what I need, but for some reason visual art doesn't help me. Well, it's not that it doesn't help me. I can't just seem to slide into it. Whereas with writing, or it's 50-50 on reading, because if I'm anxious, if I get into a rhythm with reading and I can lose myself in what I'm reading, that's exactly what I need. But sometimes it's definitely hard. I'll read a whole page and realize, oh, I read words, I didn't remember a single thing I read. Yeah. And then I need to go back. And then, so if I'm too anxious and I can't even settle down to read, then that's a problem. But I just find that for some reason, it's harder for me to slide into visual art and creating when I'm too anxious. I think music helps though, because if I have really loud music and that helps, if I can find the right thing to listen to, and then it's like distracting and also being in it at the same time.
I find for music to be very powerful for me. Like when we're in here, we can't listen to music very loud, or at least when you're in here, you don't push it very much. When I'm in here, I need it pretty loud in order for me to be able to kind of go. Like I need it to be loud. And so...
I do that when you're not here too, though.
Really?
Yeah, I have it really loud.
Why do we not play? We need
I think
to
it's
play it
because we're
loud.
talking. I think that's
Oh,
why.
maybe. Because, yeah.
We could put it louder. I don't know.
I guess we need to put it louder. Well, like, at least maybe even to start, just sometimes, yeah, to kind of like get going. I feel like I need the music and the incense, and there's like sort of these things that then they help me calm down. Like even when we were in the studio for a little while and I wasn't doing so good, and then you brought in the incense and I was like, oh, like that's like so nice. So it's just, those different things help me calm down and maybe take me away so that I can get up and then paint or do something, but probably still not writing, not today. But I'm still feeling like I was hoping when we started the podcast that I didn't start doing this like thing that I do where I catch my breath, because I was like, oh, I'll sound terrible on there. But
I don't think anyone would have noticed.
But even, it's just one of those things that anxiety still hasn't left me. And so then I think I was a little, I couldn't focus on one thing. I was just trying to do all these little bits of things, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because I have little bits of things that I've started, all kinds of them, probably the last time that I was feeling all anxious, right? So it's good to have those days sometimes to just do little bits here and there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. My mental health, I think art probably helps my mental health much more than mental health helps my art. So like having that outlet. I don't know what else I would use if I wasn't an artist to try and figure things out or to try and work through things. I don't know. But I think it definitely helps me, at least even just the space, like we were talking about, even just the space. Whereas I don't think there's anything like, ooh, this anxiousness is just like, then I can, like you were saying with anger, whereas anger can be like a super good thing to have, right?
Best for my
I know.
It's, at least that I don't feel it that much anymore, which is like a healthy thing for me.
Yeah.
But it's like, I used to channel pain into anger automatically, and now, again, what's healthier for me and people around me is that I'm like, no, this is pain. What do we do with this pain? It doesn't have to turn into anger. It doesn't have to get that far. But I mean, it was those, like, that's when art like saved me. I feel like it was just like I could just be so aggressive and violent with a piece of like wood or whatever, and just like those are the pieces that were way harder to sell too. But I mean, because they're so like black and like darker color scheme and just like whatever. But it felt so good to make them. There's like nothing I would like. If I was punching a punching bag, it wouldn't feel as good as making art in those instances. It was just nothing else would have really done it. Listening to music real loud, or even going for a bike ride, like that wouldn't have. Yeah. Because it's just the physicalness of some of the materials, and just also that is when I felt free. It was like allowing myself to be in a space like a studio space or the garage or wherever it was with
back of your car.
Or the trunk of my car,
trunk of your car.
with just like this music and just not caring about my surroundings, not caring about the thing that I'm working on. There's complete abandon. It's like, and that's why I liked working with masonite board or something else, because I could scratch into it, I could burn it, I could throw it against the wall, I could break pieces off, like, and just treat it like how I felt. So that with anger, again, like you were saying, or just reminding that like having that one specific thing to channel through is helpful. And like I mentioned before, anxiety to me is more ambiguous of a feeling sometimes, or I don't know how to work with it to my advantage. But it reminded me when you were saying with that when you come, like when you're feeling that way, you're just like a little bit here, you can't focus necessarily on one thing. Yeah. That's definitely, I think that is the thing that you articulated it well with my feeling about working on a single piece. And that's why when you ask, like, what are you going to do today? I'm like, I think I'm just going to make necklaces. Because it's just like repetition. It's kind of mindless. It doesn't demand anything from me. Yeah. And that's why I was like, I got some cleaning done and did whatever. I'm like, because it keeps me busy. Yeah. And it doesn't demand something. But sometimes I don't know. Anxiety for me is just such a different thing than like I feel sad, I feel anger, I feel happy. It's just like this weird space where I'm like, what do I do with this? Like, I don't know what to do. Yeah.
So do you think, but anxiety is what you struggle with most, right? Am I right? Yeah. So it is this. So whereas you're saying if you're depressed or whatever, like when you're saying it that way, how does that go into your art then? I mean, I guess more, because we're more saying how anxiety, for you, it works well with the writing and stuff like that, but not so much with painting, right?
Yeah.
So when you're feeling more depressed, does painting?
No, the sadness is even worse. Like when you said if anxiety is what, I don't remember the wording you use now, is the most difficult thing or whatever. Like sadness in it, like, is more difficult for me to. Well, maybe they're just different, but they're the same.
I guess
quality.
I meant it's more, you deal with anxiety more often.
Yes.
Than
Yeah.
you do,
yeah.
right?
Definitely, I deal with that way more often than
Yeah.
sadness. But maybe that's also why I don't know what to do with sadness.
Yeah.
Because I push it away on purpose as much as possible. But yeah, I definitely deal with anxiety on a higher frequency, much more on like a day-to-day basis to various degrees. It's sometimes not incapacitating at all, and other times I feel like I can't. Like sometimes I just feel like I can't do anything, and it's really rare for me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If I haven't, it's a good thing that it doesn't happen often. But when it doesn't happen often enough, I also don't know how to deal with it. Because like I said, that feeling of like doom, I'm like, I feel like I can't catch my breath, like I can't breathe, like I just completely. I mean, if you've ever been in that state or know anyone who's been in that state, it just spirals and it gets cyclical. Because I'm like, I am this way because I'm anxious, and then I get anxious that I can't fix it, and then it's just like, it's like you feel stuck in just like this horrible spiral, and so
That's why it's really good to be able to use it, right? Like, to be able to use it somehow. So for you, you can use it for your writing, which is good.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, having the anxiousness, depression, for me it's bipolar, so having all of those things and then trying to figure out how art can either help them or how it hinders it, which I don't think either one of us even remotely thinks. Because I'm in the studio and I'm by myself, it creates sadness and anxiousness, and I don't feel like that. Do you? I always feel better, or at least the same, having been here.
Yeah.
Like I never ever feel. I know it's hard to be comfy, sorry. Oh, now I forget where I was going.
Just that it never makes it worse. Like when,
No, it's always like a tool or something that it's a space that always seems to get better.
Yeah.
So I never sort of feel like I better not go to the studio because I need to have a good week and I need to do all of that. But I don't know. I think that with mental health, so there's like, to me, there's sort of like anxiousness, which is like sort of, I think for both you and I, is like you say frequency, maybe more present, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas then you call it sadness. So do you call it sadness because it's more temporary?
Instead of depression?
Yeah.
I guess this is I'm sensitive to the term depression because I've never been diagnosed with clinical depression.
Yeah.
And some people, when they talk about depression, they say it too lightly, like, I'm really depressed because this thing. I'm like, that's not depression.
Yeah.
And like I've been in depending on who I talk to, like I've been in a state of sadness, a prolonged sadness in high school for years, and I think you were like, well, that's depression, and I'm like, yeah, okay, like it's not. I'm not scared of labeling myself that because I'm like, I don't want the label or I'm like defensive or something. That's not it.
Yeah.
It was just more of a sensitivity to people who actually have clinical depression, who take medication, who whatever. And I think there was that period of time there where I was very consistently sad or depressed. And I don't feel that way anymore because it's not consistent enough at all. But when it does hit, it's like I just don't know how to sit in it, and I'm just so adverse to feeling it because it's not. I don't deal with it well. So like, and because I stave it off, then it doesn't help me deal with it any better next time. Like again, it's another cycle, but it's like I usually don't need to be in that space. Like, so.
Well, and for you, because I know music's really important for you, but you also kind of stay away from really sad songs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
That just shows how much music I mean, I know it affects all of us, but like sometimes I like to listen to sad music and like to sort of get into that, and I think it is almost cathartic then, like having a cry. Like I don't like to cry, and I haven't had a like great cry for ages, but like one of those cries that's like a big sobby cry is cathartic, right?
Yeah.
And I think sad songs like that are like that for me too, but
Yeah, I don't know. It's, like I said, with anger, because I keep going there because I'm so familiar with it, I can, if I'm at a 7 and I come to make art, I'll put myself at a 10, but in a constructive way. Like I will push it. I will listen to things that make me stay in the pocket and like explore that anger.
yeah.
I don't want to explore sadness. Because I think I'm afraid that it'll do the opposite. Because with anger, if I like push it and really get into it, it leaves. It's so energetic and so consuming and like that I can't be in that state perpetually. It's like sprinting. You know what I mean? Like it's like you will run out of steam, and that happens, and it's productive, and then I can calm down. But with sadness, it's so lazy, or it's like, I mean, if I compare it to an activity, it's just like so slow. I'm like, you could just stay there forever. Like I don't like. I feel like if I sit in the sadness, or if I explore the sadness, that I won't come out of it that easy. That I'm like, well, what am I like? This isn't helping me. I don't know. I write sad sometimes, like, but that's easier to like put a cap on, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's not very long. Whereas if I were making a piece, I don't even know where to begin. Like sadness kind of saps my creativity in a way too, I think. Whereas like anxiety kind of is like I never know what it's so, again, it's ambiguous. I never know how it's going to manifest that day or what it does, or if sometimes it helps and sometimes it takes my creativity away too, but not often. Whereas sadness, I feel like, again, I just want to like run from it. I don't want to face it or use it. And I don't know how to use it very well. So that's a thing I guess I could work on somehow, but I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'm realizing as you're talking that my anxiousness is when I want to run to a studio, but my depression, and I'll call it depression, because is when I almost don't want to leave my house, then I don't want to go to the studio. I don't wish I even had like paint at home, that I could like go paint at home. Like I don't even want to leave my bed. I just want to, so that pretty much paralyzes me.
Yeah.
It pretty much doesn't allow me to do much that'll help me get better. But so that's one that I guess if I was back in the ancient times and I was an artist, I wouldn't have been an artist if I was depressed. But they had to be mad. Although didn't that have to do with like all the mercury and stuff like that was in the paints? Didn't they figure out that after?
I don't know. Maybe it's like an urban legend or something.
Yeah, but it's even musicians and everything, right? There's the whole thing about being tortured. And,
yeah, you brought that up earlier, and I was going to.
And I think I don't know. There maybe is something to being creative with being a little bit tortured or going through things or whatever, because it's pretty hard to do a 9-to-5 job when you're anxious. Sometimes, whereas maybe
I didn't think of it like that.
Maybe if you're coming to paint or write a song, you're able to use that for it. Maybe that's why it's more fruitful.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't like. I was just thinking that it's whatever. I don't know what to call it. Being emotional, having like a well of feelings, or being in tune enough with your feelings, or being maybe a little imbalanced. Like chemically or emotionally, mentally, or however you want to call it, that I think, I don't know, and being aware of it like adds to just like, you can use that, again, with just like everything, it goes either way. I feel like it can completely incapacitate somebody, or if they allow it to, or whatever, and it also is like a well from you to draw from. But I don't think it necessarily has to be creative, because I mean, it could be just I see creativity just as a lot of different things. I mean, it'd be like all these, like, if it's like a tech company or something, right? Like, it's just like, it can be like a well to draw forth to be a driven person.
Yeah.
But there is that cliche, and it's not for nothing, the tortured artist, right? Like, that's not for nothing. It's just people maybe who know how to process pain in a constructive way. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, or maybe don't know how to process it, so we just keep handling it over. Just keep having it over and over again.
That's equally fair. Equally fair,
but,
yeah.
But I don't know. When I had brought this up was, oh, now I totally forget why I brought it up. I thought we were talking about something else, and I jokingly brought up that we should do it as a podcast, and now.
Well, you texted me about it, but
yeah.
I don't remember what we were talking about then.
As my mom would say, it must have been a lie then. That's what my mom always says whenever I forget anything. She's like, must have been a lie. But mental health is something that I have dealt with, well, actually all my life, because my dad was, so I grew up in a house where my dad was, well, depressed or bipolar, manic depressive, they called it then. And he would be okay when he went on his medication. When he went on his medication, then it just like leveled him out, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't have those highs and lows. And he hated that feeling because he was someone who was very artistic and that sort of thing. And so he would end up going off his medication. So for a father of 6 kids, that was a really bad move. But it was something that I could always understand, was that feeling of missing, right? That those energetic highs when you're just, you know, sort of, you want that manic state in a studio in a way, you know, like it'd be just amazing to have that and throw paint around and you know, I just have these like romantic, and they're definitely just romantic visions, because probably they would not be actually, right?
Yeah.
When you're manic in the studio, you probably make a bunch of horrible crap. Because that's the other thing. No, you don't think so?
I think it depends if you can harness that. It's like some people are great at experimenting. Like, I mean, like the first time they try something or second time or whatever, that you end up with an amazing product because it's so new, and other people need to research and make studies and like, I'm not saying they're not great at experimenting, but their process is much slower and more controlled. So I think if you're in a manic state and you know how to, like I said, with anger for me, like I produced what I thought were great pieces.
Yeah. Well, and being manic and being angry, I think, are really closely tied. Like those.
Just the energy.
That energy and also the ferociousness and almost out of control.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like that feeling of not being in control. Yeah. So that you had asked me some philosophical little question. Oh no, on your podcast, one of your podcasts I was listening to, where it was like, if you could have, if you had this vacation that was like the nicest vacation, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I guess we should say it just so that we can finish. So if you had the greatest vacation, anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, you could take anyone with you. Yeah. Money's not an object. You're off on some island with the most beautiful person in the world, whatever. Would you do that if you knew that you wouldn't remember it?
Yeah.
You're gone for a week, and you know in advance, at the end of this week, I'm not going to remember this ever existed. That was the question that someone else asked in a podcast, and then I decided to make a video about it because I was just like, yeah, that's an interesting question. What would I do?
And it was an interesting question, and I immediately went, hell yeah. And then after I listened more, then I was like, oh, maybe I wouldn't. And then I've decided since then, hell yeah, I'm going to take, who cares? If I'm like that happy in that moment, and if I can't remember it, I don't know what I'm missing remembering. But anyways, the reason I brought that up is if you could swap your anxiety or your sadness for never ever having it again, for only being happy, but your art might not be quite as much, would you?
Oh, that sucks. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it till now, so I don't know. Obviously being happy would be tight. Like that'd be cool.
But maybe isn't there a thing too? Like, I'm not sure either. I just asked that, but all of a sudden when you had said, like, while you were hemming and hawing, I was thinking, isn't there something? And I think it's probably like a Hallmark card or something, where it's like, you can't know happiness if you've never known sadness or something. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe you wouldn't then. If you'd always been happy, you wouldn't know you're happy because you'd never been sad.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I was thinking, I don't know, there's a couple things, and I was going to say this cliche earlier, but it's like, what's bad for your heart is good for your art. Like, that's a thing.
I
But
never heard that one.
really?
No, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking, like, if I was happy and genuinely knew what happiness was and was happy consistently a lot of the time, more so than now, and I never got anxious or sad, then, like, I still use that energy in my art. Like, I still make stuff when I'm happy. It's just different stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't like thinking that I would change myself. Like, there's times where I'm like, oh, I wish I wasn't feeling this right now. Really?
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah.
But those are extreme times. So if anything, I would want to take away those extreme times if I possibly could, but I wouldn't want to take all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, because those things add up to who I am too, and I like who I am generally. I don't know, I just don't feel like I'm in danger, I guess. Like, I don't feel like I am at my own peril and therefore need to alter something in order just to stay alive. And I think that people that have that struggle then may think about those changes more. Whereas I feel like I don't want to feel like I feel like I'm gonna die. Like, that's what doom is to me. Like, I feel like I'm gonna die and I don't know why, but it's not at my own hand. It's just like for some reason I feel like this is gonna happen and I can't get rid of it. And that feeling obviously sucks. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't really think about what I would change about myself too much because I feel like there's enough that's in my control. I guess that's what it is. I feel like the things that I do want to change, I'm working on, and I've seen progress in a lot of those areas, and I feel like I can change those things on my own. I mean, I'll never change anxiety, period, but I can change how I manage it. And that brings me to the thing I forgot I was going to say earlier, was just that I was saying to you earlier about, like, man, I went from riding my bike 30 days in a row, because it was like a challenge thing, to, oh, now I'm, like, it would have been interesting if it was raining like this when I tried to do that, and it wasn't. Thankfully, I had generally good weather, but I only rode my bike once in the past week. And so I was just thinking of, like, well, if I'm riding, like, I mean, it's something I learned about anxiety like a year ago or more, of just like, oh, there's things I can do to prepare to not be as anxious later. If I know that something's going to make me anxious or that something might happen, but I mean, like, if I work out every morning, that helps me an insane amount, and I don't do it unless I'm bike riding. But if I were to work out in the morning, like, I was more patient throughout the day, I didn't feel anxious as much, whatever. And so I was thinking that if I was in the studio more on days, instead of trying to repair the anxiousness, or instead of trying to use my anxiety to create, or my anxiety, debilitates my ability to do stuff, then if I was just here on let's just say in a magical world, if I was here on a daily basis, I just wouldn't get as anxious. If I'm here making happy art and whatever, I just wouldn't feel as anxious in the first place. So I think that the artistic practice and keeping that up can, instead of like writing when I'm sad or writing when I'm anxious, like, what if I was writing in the morning instead of at the end of the day?
Yeah.
What if that helped? Just to, like, whatever. So I think that aspect too, because we were kind of talking the other way around, where
yeah. No, that by making it more of a practice, how then it could, positively help our mental health.
Yeah.
You were talking about before where you, you still sort of feel like you have things under control or whatever, right? So whereas I've been the opposite, where I actually need to be on the medication in order to be okay. So, so why was I thinking that when you were saying that? Oh, darn, because when you were saying that, I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because I actually, maybe it's, I know, it's when you were talking about whether or not you would want to be okay all the time, if you'd want to be happy all the time or not. And you had said, well, because I kind of have control of it, then I think I'm okay, maybe. And I was thinking, okay, well, I don't have control of it. I am medicated for it and don't do okay. And I was like, I still don't know that I want to choose to be happy every day. And it's not because of even, like I say, that's why I said before, I don't think that my mental health helps my art, but that my art helps my mental health. So that's why I guess it wouldn't really matter if I was happy all the time or sad all the time. Like, I don't need, okay, hang on a second. Okay. So I guess I would still not choose to be happy all the time, even though, because I don't think, not because I think that would affect my art, but just, I don't know. I don't want to feel anxious. I would give anxiousness up for anything.
Yeah.
Like, if you told me that I would never be anxious anymore if I just didn't eat, like, white grains or whatever, you've got it, dude. Like, I will not eat any more white grains, so I will give that up anytime. But the sadness, I kind of think that it is good to kind of have that up and down, and that sadness can be beneficial. And maybe because sadness, I think, affects my writing in a positive way.
Yeah.
So maybe that is where I'm sort of saying I don't want to give up part of me, because I think that it does help my writing and how I'm reflective. So I don't know.
I had a thought, and I lost it.
You should share it. This is a podcast.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah, I should share it.
I should not even remotely give you a hard time, being as I'm the one who's always like, wait, I had a thought. It left me when I was 40. What? Did it come back?
Nope.
Okay.
No, not yet.
All right. Should I just like keep like meandering and like, or will that just take away from your?
I don't know.
Trying to remember it.
I'll get there somehow.
Okay.
I've often said that like writing was a coping mechanism, and like art is a coping mechanism for sure. And I was just thinking again back to just the. I was watching this amazing graffiti documentary, Infamy, again the other day. And they were just talking about like, oh, you know, when he didn't draw every day, he became very irritable. Like one of the writers, his mom was talking, and it was like, yeah, again, that thing of just like having a practice that you do, but not in reaction to what you're feeling, but so that you don't feel your feelings or these negative feelings as much as you would be, just to give you more patience and more control and less anxiety and things like that. It's something I've thought of doing before, of being like, because I just. Again, with magazines I read and stuff, it's like, yeah, just make a habit of drawing every day. Just do like a 30-second drawing every day or something, and I never do it.
That's why I'm doing Buds and Babes on one of my friends. It's just this little like
Facebook group
thing, and everybody I think just takes it really light and humorous, but it's almost just making you think of doing an art piece every day.
Yeah.
So, and drawing's not my jam, so I haven't really done drawing, but it's just this little tiny, thing that creating piece of art every day. Anyway, sorry, that's an aside.
That's what, yeah. I should put that in my practice. Everything, like, I don't know. Sometimes
maybe you and I should like make like a pact or something, not a pact, a blood pact.
Yeah.
But no, like, or like with some like. It would be good to like do this writing, like even I had talked about writing letters back and forth or something, right? But like maybe having that where it would be this like daily thing that you're almost kept accountable for, right? Like, I don't know, it could be interesting.
Yeah.
Be an interesting project or not.
No, it would be. It's just once something becomes routine, I can stick with it decently for a while. But then if it's
I'm
like
terrible.
It's just
if I'm not like if I'm not accountable to somebody else, it'll fall off so fast.
Yeah.
So I'll just sort of be like, I'll do 2 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I'm not good at. I shouldn't say that. I have not been in the past.
Yeah.
No. But anyways, yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think just.
What were you thinking? What would you like? Would you choose writing? Like, what do you think would be your thing that would help to keep your anxiety at bay or consistently keep sadness at bay? Do you think it would be writing? Or I think be writing for you.
I think that writing would just be healthy for me to do every day anyway, but that would probably be an end of the day thing. But I think that as for like for me visual art, I've always thought about like I just need to do graffiti every day. One, it's frustrating for me to do, like in a good way. Like it's I don't know, it's just like I get so perfectionist about doing like pieces on paper, make sure every curve and everything, every line is straight and whatever like that, and I don't. Part of it is just to practice letters, right? And if I did a piece every day, that'd be amazing. Like I think that'd be sick. But it's one of those things that it's like busy work, and I can focus on it and just do it without putting in any mental or emotional effort.
Mm-hmm.
So, or very little.
But then would it give you the same back?
Well, I feel like it'd be, I guess, the same thing that meditation would do. Is like I'm not really expending any emotional or mental effort meditating. It's supposed to be absence of.
Have you still been meditating? No.
I need to.
Yeah.
I really do.
Why is it that we only, or at least me, and I'm assuming now you, from what you just said, just go to meditating when like I get to this spot that's like I can't breathe. Now I need to meditate in order to be able to breathe.
Yeah. It just needs to be a habit.
Yeah.
But I remember the thing I was
really
going to say earlier.
Okay.
And that's that. I think that there's like a desire, sometimes that I still feel this way, of being in this space, being in Mars. I just want to be here at night and just lose my mind.
Yeah.
Like there's sometimes like there's a freedom.
No.
Yeah, and I haven't done that yet, but there's a part of me that's like, if I feel the way I'm feeling right now, like maybe I should just go to the studio and just feel it there and just be a wreck. And like, I don't know, because even in the last episode, we were talking about roles and responsibilities and me not wanting to have any with art. It's like, well, there's obviously a freedom in not having responsibility to anything, and in those moments that to push that freedom or to explore that freedom or to create freedom for yourself to be a mess in a safe space, and then have something productive come out of it, right? That's and the thing, I mean, that kind of links to something earlier that I was saying, but I don't think I really got to it, was just that depending on the feeling, like, I don't know, sometimes it's necessary and sometimes it's really difficult for me to push that feeling. Like I said, with sadness, I don't push it, I go away from it. With anger, I push it, and it's helpful. So, but there's an allure in wanting to lose control. For me, because I think I generally am so much in control and I strive for control because that eases my anxiety. But every once in a while, there is an allure of like, what if I just like even we were talking about drug use earlier, and there's it's like, what if I just coked myself up and just no responsibilities? I'm just like, that's it. Like it's just like when things are, especially with anxiety, it's because all the responsibility that I feel, all the things that I don't know that I can't control, but I have to be responsible for at some point. Like that's the thing. So I think that obviously art is healthier than doing coke or something, but
although, have you seen those my brothers posted them where they have like, this was drawn on somebody who like smoked a joint, this was drawn on someone who did LSD, like
someone who did portraits, self-portraits, all these different drugs.
Like that was really interesting. That's a totally different thing. Maybe we should do that. We should like draw something. This is us completely fucking anxious. Whoops. Said I wasn't gonna say that word.
It's okay.
Anxious. This is me, totally chilled out.
Yeah. Have mood drawings.
Yeah, have mood drawings. And it's like, oh, I'm feeling a different mood. I better hurry and draw it. But because yeah.
Well, I think something that you touched on earlier that I didn't for some reason explore at that moment was that so with my BFA exhibition, I was playing with this notion of if I remember towards the end, whether it's corny or not, I remember this phrase I used was, if artwork is, well, you talked about a cathartic process, right? So I was like, okay, I'm exploring the notion of art as a cathartic process for myself, but then I kind of was like, the question was, is creating art exorcising the demons or exercising the demons? Because with that BFA exhibition, I was working with music, with my lyrics from songs, and making those into visual art pieces. And whereas I was finding the visual art pieces that I was making at a certain point were very healthy, good, cathartic things. But with music, because I have to perform that again and again and again and again, I found it got me into a cycle. And then it actually transferred over to my visual art, where I was making visual art about things I had already made visual art about that I thought I had dealt with, or that they like. Because it's like usually I step away from the painting's done, and I felt like, good, great, gone.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, even just with the performing of these songs, it put me into a place sometimes, again and again, every couple of weeks or whatever it was that we would do. I mean, jamming was a little different, but performing it live, I felt it more than when I was just rehearsing. So that was a thing too, of just like...
So how did the pieces differ? Like...
Oh, the pieces didn't differ. I just ended up making more...
I know, but like, let's say, okay, so your initial one, and then when you replay the song, or, you play the song and then you have those feelings again.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then it would cause you to create a piece of art?
Sometimes, yeah. Like I'm
So what would that piece of art, or is totally unrelated, didn't...
Like how...
Just, like I guess that's kind of interesting to me. I'm just like super curious, like if they were similar at all, if they had similar color palettes, if they were...
I don't really, I can't speak to that as much. No, I mean, it was just the fact that I was returning to the subject matter again, and returning to it with art. Like I was still expressing it through art, but it was like musically, like performing that art, whatever that I think it would translate to doing something at a gallery or something too, if you had to perform the same thing. But instead of performing it every day for a month, you're performing it every couple weeks for years. Like that's the thing that it was like, we would introduce new songs and stuff, but...
Did it eventually, it would just work its way gone then, wouldn't it?
No, and that was the thing that I was exploring with that, because I was like...
So if you listen to the song now, because you guys have it recorded, right?
Yeah.
So if you listen to it now, would it turn you into wanting to do another art piece again, you think?
Well, no, not necessarily. It's just the fact that it puts me in that mood, because music just does that.
Yeah.
But performing it, so that one aspect of performance art, if you want to call it that, because it repeated... It brought me back into a negative mental space instead of... that's what I was saying. Yeah, so like initially, the song was like cathartic, initially. Yeah. And then over time, it's like, well, I'm not dealing with this, I'm not getting it out, because I'm getting it out like all the time, so I'm just putting myself back in that place all the time. Right. And that's why I was like, well, with a physical piece, it's easier for me just to let go of, and I recognize that. With performing a song that I'd written, I'm revisiting it, so that doesn't do the same thing. And then, like, I started making more visual work, because I would be in that state. I started making more visual work about things I thought I already dealt with, because the song would bring it back up again. I don't know. So there's, like, that kind of repetition and stuff, too. Like, that played a bit of a role. Definitely. Like, I was thinking back to that time of just, like, making those works and, like, how it was. Because it was just, like, I don't know, like, that just whole notion of my, like, basically a thesis in a way was, like, is this helping me? Is art actually helping me, or is it not right now? And I think that obviously it's both. I mean, it can be both, but generally, overwhelmingly, it's positive for me, and it definitely helps. But
I think like when they talk about art therapy, I think using art for therapy is to figure things out, not necessarily to make you feel better.
But that helps you feel
No,
better.
I'm not saying it's like wrong, like that it's not therapy, but I'm saying like it's not like take this art and do a bunch of painting and you'll feel better, like not necessarily, but you'll figure things out. So the therapy part of it is, being processing. Processing.
Yeah, and so then you can figure out what to do with that after. Yeah. Especially if you're what?
An external processor.
Oh, yep.
So no, but seriously, right? Yeah, like particularly if you are.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know. I always feel like my mental health is very precarious. Well, it is precarious. And it's nice that I have something that is mine that I can come to at least escape, if nothing else.
Well, and I think that, like, again, there's so many things I think we hinted at and didn't explicitly say, but just being in the space or being in Venus, like, not doing anything really, even in that moment. Like these spaces, I mean, it's a safe space, or it's like a Pavlovian thing that it feels good to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're constructive when we're here, we're whatever, right? So it's like you have a space where that space is inherently positive, or like positive things happen there all the time, then just being here changes and affects things. Well, I mean, we said that earlier. Maybe that's why I'm thinking, because we didn't say it on the podcast, but like, we initially went and sat in Venus when we got here, and then we were only in there for like 15 minutes or something. You're like, want to go to Mars? I was like, okay. And then I came here and I felt better. Like, right, I was like, oh, there's things to do. Let me clean this up. Let me whatever. Like, and it's a bigger space, so I'm moving around, I guess, too. Whereas Venus it was like very clean right now, and just like sitting and like. Sometimes, I mean, it's never a bad space. It's just that it wasn't helping me, and I didn't realize that till I came here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, look, there's all this stuff that I was in the middle of doing, and I need to clean. And so but being in either space is just helpful. Like you said, that this is where you want to be, or like you can't even think about leaving the house. But if you are here, if you end up here, it's always positive. Like. Or at least the same. Or at least, like you said, the same, and it doesn't make things worse.
It's always a positive experience. It might not bring me out of it, but it's always... I haven't really had a negative experience. It's just sometimes it hasn't, like, made me better, for lack of a better word, right? Which, like, you know, I wouldn't expect it to, but... I think sometimes I want to use art to bring out anger, or to be able, because I don't really get angry. Like, I don't really get angry. Like, I don't get angry at people. Like, that's something, as I've gotten older, I've just decided I don't want to have. I don't like it. I don't want it. And so it's something that I've kind of let go. But sometimes, like, I'll use the words, I want to throw paint. Yeah. And I actually literally mean I want to throw it. Like, if this space, like, allowed that I could, like, literally just throw frickin' paint all over, I would. Yeah. Like, and so there is something that I almost feel like if I could have a space where I could kind of get angry, and then it would be a place where I could get angry. Yeah. Right? And maybe that is what it is about having the loud music and the incense or something. Maybe it just sort of changes the space or something. Can be, I don't know. But I wish I did have a space where I could, literally throw paint. Maybe I'll have to set something up in the alley one day and just throw paint. I did that one time on the fence, like, you know, at the back of my house. The fence I had put on canvas. That's why if you ever look at the back of our fence, there's all this, like, black horrible paints where some of the paint went through. Okay. So, but actually it was for the guerrilla gardening I painted on there, but also did some throwing. And it was so good. It was so good. So I'd really like to throw some paint, literally. But it is what I do use. Like, sometimes I'll even say, I just need to go throw paint, right? Yeah. I just want to go throw paint at a canvas. And I don't actually ever get to literally do that. But I think I would enjoy that. Because I
So I had a battery issue again, which I'll keep in mind more for next time again. Hopefully won't make the same mistake.
The only reason I kind of laughed is because I know that it bugs you so much.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, anyways.
But in that time that I was just, like, hooking things up and whatever, getting things ready to go again, you kind of brought up the fact that, like, that this feels just a little discombobulated was the word you used, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, it felt like kind of not as natural and flowy and back and forth conversation like we would normally have. But that's probably a product of where we're at emotionally right now. So
yeah.
Yeah,
that we sort of came in today sort of feeling a bit discombobulated and stressed and just not. And it's raining here. When it's sunshine, then my disposition's a little bit sunnier too. But no, I think I don't think that it's because I find it hard to talk about my mental illness, because it's something that I know everyone is talking about it more, which But I think that it's just sort of where we're at, like
Yeah,
today.
talking about it isn't a problem, but talking about it when you're not in the middle of it is a lot easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
easier to be reflective, and it's because I thought that this morning I was like, oh, that'll kind of be good that that's what we're going to talk about because we're both in the middle of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it turns out it's really not, and I don't know if it's just not being able to like get my thoughts together or what it is. But I do feel I don't feel that I'm able to have some not that I think I do have great thoughts all the time, but I feel like I'm struggling more, and I feel like maybe I'm a little PC'er too, which yeah. Are you awake over there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, I was just thinking that, like, it's, I don't know, that's, earlier I was thinking, what would I do if I didn't have art? And then I was like, well, I'd bike, I guess. Like, I mean, because I'm doing that at the same time anyway. Before that, I had no outlet for so long.
Yeah.
But I was even thinking, like, in high school when I played basketball, it definitely helped me manage my anxiety. I didn't even know that's what it was doing, but just because it was a physical thing and whatever.
Yeah.
But I was never more self-reflective doing that, whereas with biking I am. It just allows for a different thing. Yeah.
So, well, because you're, like, on your own for the most part and quiet, right?
Yeah, and in nature and all that stuff, and it definitely allows for that more. Mm-hmm. But I think I would still, that solves one thing, but I don't know, it's just one of those interesting things. I'm like, how do we process what we're feeling, and why do we feel the need to have an output for that? Because, I mean, people process it internally all the time without having an output. You know what I mean? Like, if they're feeling sad, or if they're feeling, like, anxious or angry or whatever. Some people just, like, have that, and they're like, oh, I'm feeling this way. That sucks. Maybe I shouldn't feel this way. I guess I'm going to go cook now. Like,
well, yeah, some people have that. Some people have where they're on a ton of medication. Some people have where they kill themselves.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just mean that there's a lot of people that don't need a creative outlet.
Oh, I see.
Or use a creative outlet.
Yeah.
To process and express their feelings. I mean, I process my feelings not only through art or creative stuff. Like, sometimes I don't have to write anything out or whatever, but I think about things. But then why do I feel the need to put those feelings into a mostly physical product? Like, or even if it's writing, why do I have to put those things? Why do they need to have a literal output that comes out of me onto something else, whether it's my voice with music, or whether it's writing or visual art? Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's probably a whole different topic.
I don't know either, because I mean I've done it since I can remember. So, like, from being a teenager, I guess, from when I would have first started. Then I started keeping a diary. So I did that for about a year, pretty much every night, keeping a diary. Yeah. And that was my first experience with, actually, I can write. I'm not, I had a cousin who did poetry that all rhymed, and sort of like how I thought art was, until I got exposed to it more and figured out different ways of writing and different ways of art. And so it's, always something that I have gone to. Is it always something you've gone to?
I mean, I was writing in high school, and I was very prolific with the writing I was doing, and I didn't do any visual art really until I was, like, doing, well, if I want to call vandalism, that was the start of my visual art, so there was a transition there, but that wasn't until I was, like, 19-ish.
Yeah.
20? I don't know when I first made that abstract piece. I don't remember what year it was. 2006 was maybe the first, I think, 2006. So yeah, not always. I didn't know I was into visual art at all in high school, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
I was just thinking too of, like, has creating stuff ever exacerbated your mental state in a negative way? Because I was thinking of that thing that I wrote 2 nights ago, and then again when I read it, it just makes me feel ill, and I don't like it. Like,
why don't you burn it?
No. I don't mean I don't like it. Like, I wish I didn't write it.
No, it is great. I like it, but if it makes you feel like that, why don't you get rid of it?
I don't know, because it's documented. It's there. It's fine. I just don't want to reread it again, because I was just rereading it, because I just do that sometimes when I write something. I reread it a couple times, sometimes the next day even, And that's what I did, and I was like, ugh, like, it was so strong that I didn't want to relive that by reading it. Because I'm just thinking of me, that I don't think I've ever been in, like, I don't think, other than that performing aspect, I guess, like, that's what we were talking about for a bit, was that that has exacerbated negative mental health. Like, it's impacted me negatively rather than positively, because it was not letting go. It wasn't a cathartic process anymore. It was reliving this process, like, if I wrote it, recorded it, that was it, then it would be a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But
I don't think I've ever had an art that like that. Like, I've never done music, so I've never had something like that where I would have that same cathartic moment that then you almost are reliving over and over, which takes away from the catharsis. Unless, with that song and those feelings you had, unless it took it right away. Like, maybe you listen to it and it happened so many times that now you can listen to it and it doesn't give you those feelings.
No.
Or do you think it will ever more?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really cathartic then.
Nope, not at that point. Nope.
No. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what we're going to do for our next podcast, but hopefully, well, I shouldn't say hopefully it'll be a bit cheerier. Meh.
No, whatever.
Hopefully it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I still feel like we explored some stuff here that I appreciate exploring, that I wasn't thinking of before that much.
Yeah.
And just how, I don't know, because we talked about both sides of it, like how does our mental health affect the artwork we are creating, or it affects it so we're not creating it, or like how we're creating it, what the outcome sometimes looks like, and then also how the other way around, when we're creating work, it can affect our mental health. Like, just, they go.
And the thing that I really took out of this is the practice, how the practice of being, the practice of making art. So, like, I try and get to the studio like once a week at the least, but then I also do create art every day on my own, but the studio is a different place. But so how that practice of doing something, like, I think I might look at that and explore that on my own and try and figure out, unless you want to try and do a collaborative thing, but I want to try and do something that is, and just give that 30 days or something of doing like a daily thing that I and see how that affects me, if it does at all. And I guess part of that maybe would include doing a diary or something, so that I can see maybe how it's affecting me, but then maybe the diary is what's going to do it. I don't know. But
I don't know.
that was one thing that I really thought was an interesting idea, and I was inspired by you doing your 30 days of biking. So 31, I think it was in July, right?
I only did 30. I started on the 2nd and went to the 31st.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But I think that might be something that I definitely took from this. So, and that I really want to make throwing paint happen.
I don't know why you can't make it happen here.
Well, because it would I splash paint everywhere. Can you imagine if I start throwing it? Oh boy, that'd be dangerous. I might do it one day. You'll come in.
Maybe.
Yeah, poor little Mary, the mannequin, covered in paint.
Maybe.
But anyway.
I had something I was going to say to wrap that up, and I don't remember what it is
Why
anymore.
do I keep interrupting you and taking away your thoughts?
No, it's not. Well, it's not you. That's just, I was just like, I couldn't remember. I thought of it, and then I was listening intently, and then I forgot it. That's all that happened.
Oh, well, that's nice you were listening intently. Aww.
I try.
We still haven't come up with our sign-off.
No, we don't have a sign-off.
No.
I think what I was going to say was just that, again, I think it's like a really cliche thing, like, yeah, like your mental health will affect your artwork and whatever, vice versa. But, nope, lost it. I forget.
All right. Well, let's go and be in our little anxious cells and drink tea.
Okay.